Yes, thank you. Hi, folks. Could you please tweet out that tonight the NSA came in here, the CIA came in and they screwed with the string keys. So, but it doesn't matter. At least this is going to be videotaped, right?
Yes.
All right. So at least from this point on, with the exception of Roger's joke that kind of bailed us out. Can I have a sip of that wine?
I'm going to put that
Well, don't have any wine yet. I'm going to have some wine later.
Okay. Well, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the woman next to you. All right. Well, oh, it will help the live stream if I could hear myself on the microphone. Does that work? Yes. All right. Kelly's saying it's looking great, but it's not on our. Everybody's going, right? You can't. It's only on. What spot is it on now? Whose spot is it on?
Defense Assange.
It's on Defense Assange. How is that? I would transmit it to Defense Assange. How are you doing that?
Can you give it a retweet that we?
All right. Well, I can't do it right now. I do. Everyone else. Or everybody else can. All right. Please go here. And you know what? We'll just. Who's back there?
We need some music.
Yeah, let's play a little bit of music here. Then I'm going to have to bring up, because some guys have to leave that came all the way down here, weren't announced until yesterday. Otherwise, we'd have been totally sold out. Maybe we'll bring in that guy outside.
Yeah, welcome in.
We can blame it on him. Let's bring the guy in with a sign. All right? Yo. Yeah, we can use the microphone. And hey, you guys. Let's have a good time. This is going to be on video. And by the time we'll put Roger and Cornel on right against Nightline. You ever watch Nightline? Is that still on?
Yeah.
You watch these other shows? Harry Melvin, you watch anything MSNBC?
No.
You ever watch these shows? There's no news.
No, it's not that one.
It's all opinion. It's all opinion. That's all it is. You get 5 points of view on these panel shows. The right, the far right, the extreme right, the fascist right, and the third right. That's it. Just because we're not being live streamed doesn't mean you guys have to be down. All right? I'm walking around like a fucking Monty Hall up here. What's behind door number 3? It's a megaphone! All right, I'll use that instead. Who needs a microphone? In 1860, some rail splitter, a guy who represented as a lawyer the railroad interests, the cartels, made a speech over there. And Horace Greeley was there. What's the guy's name? He's from Illinois. Right there, Cooper Union, without a microphone. Then he did it 3 years later, outdoor at Gettysburg, without a microphone. So we don't need a microphone. Talk about Abe Lincoln. He worked down the street here, Cooper Union, on the same street, without a microphone. This is like one half the size.
He keeps on texting me, so and then as it gets in my way, I can't see.
Yes.
Tell Kelly not to text me.
Doesn't change things.
Cornell tweeted it. We're all good.
Cornell did? Well,
Yeah.
what about Roger?
Go ahead.
We're all good?
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to get off? I understand that. Why don't you get one of those signs like the guy outside, Randy Credico's killing the room? All right, so we're going to start out. We're going to bring up my friend, one of my best friends of all time, someone that was Person of the Week. That's how I first met her. I didn't meet her, I saw her. Person of the Week. You remember the show with Max Robinson and Frank Reynolds and Peter Jennings out of Toronto? Well, they had this deal at the end of the week, they'd highlight somebody. And the person was a lawyer at Center for Constitutional Rights. And I didn't know who she was because her last name then was, didn't go by her husband's name, but by Ratner, Margaret Ratner. So Margaret Ratner, I saw her, she was Person of the Week, you know why? For her work in exposing the FBI's infiltration of peace groups working in Central America. That's what she did, and I couldn't believe it. Someone who went to Columbia Law School and had spent all of her time doing radical work, worked with her husband, Bill Kunstler, and then she was the one that had me, and it was an honor, 97, to run the William Kunstler Fund for Racial Justice. And the initiative was, the very first one, was against New York's Rockefeller drug laws. So, Emily Kunstler, the filmmaker right here, has got, her and her sister just got a great new film called, no, don't say Who We Are, a chronicle of racism in America. I just saw it in Middlebury. It's an incredible film with Jeffrey Robinson. How can they see that, Emily?
It's going to open in New York January 14th.
All right, and if Sony's got it, can I say that or not? Can we cut that out? Huh?
Sony's Pictures Classic.
Sony Pictures Classic. It's a brilliant film. This is the third one. First one was on Tulia, Texas. All right? She went down there in 2000. Margaret Kimberly got a letter from a preacher in Tulia, Texas, saying, we have a problem here. 46 African Americans have been shanghaied under the drug laws. One guy, one corrupt cop, this one, but one down there, 10% of the black population was swept up from this racist cop, used to be a Klansman, and so he says, come down there. So we went down there, spent 3 years organizing the Kunstler Fund, organizing, naming a documentary. Emily and Sarah, we gave it to Bob Herbert. Herbert came down there. I even did Bill O'Reilly. He says, no, on your side here. So, the next thing you know, Margie was the Grand Marshal at the Juneteenth parade in Amarillo in 2000. And so, those two initiatives, everyone, we were patient with the Rockefeller drug laws. We organized like the Madres de Plaza de Mayo in Argentina. We stood everywhere, and those laws got changed. And then Margaret took on 50 of those who were eligible for resentencing. And what I just said in introduction is going to be longer than a speech. Can you believe that? But she deserves it. Please say hello to Margaret Kimberly. Hello.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that everything's going. I want to start off by saying that I'm really optimistic about the hearings that are going to be taking place. And the reason I'm optimistic is because the United States has the burden here. Barrister has ruled in our favor. She has ruled that there should be no extradition. And the U.S. is now going to get up and try to make a factual argument on their behalf. Let me tell you that they have no credibility. A number of things have happened that have reduced them to lying, killing, murdering. I mean, it's not new, but it's up there. And you can't get up before a judge and a court and announce that you have something significant to say factually if you have no moral standing. So that's why I think we're going to be very successful this week in the hearing. So that's what I have to say about that. But I'm not going to talk about law because I'm supposed to be being funny, and I am not particularly funny. But one of the things that is really funny is that I introduced Randy to Julian Assange. Now you may not think that's funny, but I think it's funny. I did it after much thought. Randy was wanting me to do that for the entire summer of 2016. And at the end of the year, at the end of the summer, I agreed to do that. And I was going through in my mind, what terrible things could I have created by bringing Randy and Julian together? How could I have sacrificed Julian to my friendship to Randy? And I was really concerned about that. And then I began to relax. And then a year later, Roger Stone came up.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. So I was finished. You know, the guilt that I brought Roger Stone and Russiagate into this situation. Roger Stone had lost,
his status with Trump, and he figured out how to get it back. He was going to say, and did say, because he figured it out, he's not a dumb guy, he's just a creep, a horrible guy. He said, oh, Margaret is involved in the Assange defense, and Randy is her friend, and Randy has obviously interviewed Julian, so here's the story I'm going to tell the people. I'm going to say that this is a connection, and this is how I know what's happening, and I know what's going to happen, and I know the story about what Julian is going to release, and here it goes. So this was, you know, the press picks up nothing about Julian Assange, but the press picked up this. Well, suddenly, you know, Roger Stone and Julian Assange have this relationship. It's not clear how they have it. They have it through Randy, they have it through me. But anyway, he's releasing information that Julian is giving. Let me tell you, that Julian Assange would either tell me or Randy what his plans were is insane, but he certainly would never tell Roger Stone. So yeah, that was not a great experience. And now, I have another possibility for this whole thing to start, Russiagate to start all over again. And that is that, I don't know if you followed it, but there's this guy, Deripaska, whose whose buildings were looked at, and there were search warrants by the FBI, and they went into all of his buildings. Well, one of those buildings is across the street from my building on Gay Street. So I'm waiting for them to say that I've handed him half of a peanut butter sandwich with a thumb drive. Thank you very much.
I may as well. I'm not verbally doing well. I may as well do a dog and pony freaking show. Well, she's done 100 of these. She's like the most active. She's an activist dog. I got a picture with at Occupy Wall Street with Cornell 2011. Remember that? 2011, Bianca was there. Cornell was carrying the sign. And then we went out and got arrested. Not with a dog. She's an activist dog. She's from Buenos Aires. Her great-great-grandfather dog, Galley, very famous canine against the military dictatorship in 1977. She bit General Videla in the fucking ankle. Gave him rabies. He died before he could be thrown into prison. So that's Bianca. She is 16 years old. She's my therapy. Did Stephen Teague show up tonight? Of course not. He knew he wanted to say, I'm staying here and watching it on live stream. I'm not coming down. He was 2 blocks away. Okay. He keeps texting. What happened? Well, shit happens. And but Bianca has been, you know, she's a beautiful dog. You are my lucky star. I'm lucky from afar. Two lovely eyes at me that were beaming, gleaming. I was starstruck, oh, you are my lucky charm. I'm lucky in your arms. You open heaven's portal here on earth for this poor mortal. You are my lucky, lucky star.
I hope that went out!
The dog, she's it. What Lassie? That's the dog. Asta. I love Asta. I love those old movies, right? Did you ever watch Nick and Nora? That's difficult not to drink. Nick and Nora. So, what comic wants to come to the firing squad now? See, Margaret, and Bianca and a few others, we were down in D.C. last week. And then we went on the 18th to Harper's Ferry. Okay? We said, oh great, it's John Brown. This is the anniversary of John Brown being captured. So we went down there to check it out. But it wasn't what I expected it to be. Because the city is exactly, it looks and feels like it did in 1859. You know why? Because everybody that lives there hates John Brown in Harper's Ferry. It was very difficult. They have all sorts of Confederate statues. I got one, did you get that cup? They had one cup for sale that had John Brown's face. The rest was Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee. I can hear myself. Why am I here? Oh, it's actually working. There are 20,000 people waiting. Are you going to be funny? 20,000 people waiting. You can't meet. How about that one?
Piano player's laughing at you.
Yeah. Well, of course, he's an easy laugh. I gave him a 20. All right, that's for the whole band, all right? And I'll give you waffle after moons later on tonight. In the morning after I watch it after hours for it, because you know I'm going to go there tonight. This is one of those nights where I play violin. Why don't I just do... Okay, I know to do one more song, and this is, this reminds me of Casablanca. This reminds me of where Bogart puts the letters of transit in here. The letters of comedy is what I need. All right, this is Bogart from Casablanca. I must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. Here's Peter Lorre singing it. He went to lovers woo. They still say I love you. And that you can rely, Mr. Rick. Mr. Rick, help me, Mr. Rick. Mr. Rick. Was that Sidney Mason? Who remember those voices? You know, the James Mason. Oh, moonlight and love songs, never out of date, hearts full of passion, jealousy, woman needs man, I need a Lolita, man must have his mate, that no one can deny. George C. Scott, it's still the same old story. Right, for love and glory, Walter Mandel. I can't shoot your day. Will be sacred. See, some of these hack impressions I used to do. All right. I thought I told you that. You know, Reagan almost got the role in Casablanca. Did you know that? Yeah. He was cast first before Bogart.
No, that's not good.
He did. He was. He
He
was. And imagine him in that movie at the airport saying to Ingrid Bergman at the end, "Where I'm going, you can't follow. Which you can't meet a march. Doesn't amount to a hill of beach." All right, you guys in the CPS can go screw yourselves. That's the Crown Prosecutor Services. We're desecrating the memory of those who gave their lives. Those who gave their lives in World War II, fighting against Nazism. Those guys who went to law school at Cambridge that work with the Crown Prosecutor Services, they are pissing on the graves of those who gave their lives. Those who gave their lives at Dunkirk, I'm serious about this. Those who gave their lives at the Battle of Crete, British soldiers, those who gave their lives in Dunkirk and Battle of Britain, like Leslie Howard did, Petrified Forest. And then, of course, the Battle of Anzio, like Eric Fletcher Waters gave his life. And Roger Waters, his son, has carried on the same energy, the same tradition, and the same values ever since he came. I appreciate that.
Is it my turn?
No, because I saw you got like,
Is anyone else on the show, Rita?
yes, we're going to do it like I'm finished.
Okay.
I had to wait for the live stream so I could be seen as well. All right, why don't you get up here, Lee, and introduce the next two acts?
Yeah, come on,
Lee
Lee.
Camp. Get up here. When they come out here, get away from that guy outside. I'm taking a long break. Cheers.
I've been left with the dog, apparently. Can someone maybe take the dog?
I don't want her anymore.
Hello, everybody. What's up? How you doing? Good? I'm glad you met my friend outside. He and I go way back. Oh, yes, he apparently had links. There were URLs to how crazy I am, or what a fraud I am, or something. I don't know. I'm excited to go speak to him later, but... and so this is exciting. How about let's start, since we're here for a cause, since we're here for a reason, let's start with a chant. I say free, you say Julian. Free! Julian! Free! Julian! Free! Julian! Free! Julian! Free! Julian! Free! Julian! I'll keep doing it till I fucking feel it, alright? We can go for an hour. No, you know the moment. Give it up though for Andy Credico one more time. Give it up for him. The moment I knew that Russiagate was utter horseshit was when I turned on MSNBC and they were like, the guy who coordinated was Randy Credico. They literally have like footage of him going into his apartments. They're like, this is the man who put it together. It was like, these guys doesn't understand email. He's running Russiagate though, apparently. But we are here for Julian Assange, which is just I mean, you know, you guys don't need to hear it anymore about how horrible it is, what a horrible situation it is, how fucked up it is, what it says, and perhaps one of the craziest things is what it says about our mainstream media, that they aren't defending him every fucking day, that they aren't doing segments endlessly about Julian Assange. It's amazing. And then occasionally they'll mention him, and usually it's in a segment where they go, well, it's the difference between a journalist and a hacker. A journalist, what we here at the mainstream media do is we are journalists. He's a hacker. All right, if they are journalists, then Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, who have never gotten anything wrong, who have never retracted a single fucking story. Meanwhile, the mainstream media put out bullshit propaganda that de facto stenographers for the State Department, in major stories like Russiagate, WMD, all this shit. If they're journalists, then they're right. Julian Assange is not that. He is not whatever the fuck they are. All right? You do have to give some of them credit, though, like Chuck Todd. I mean, the effort it takes to get everything wrong is really impressive. And that guy has to work endlessly to get everything wrong. He did today's episode facing the wrong direction. It's truly incredible. His name on his underwear has a retraction. It's fucking amazing, the shit they do. No, they can't cover Julian Assange because they're busy covering things like how we need to hate Cuba or hate Venezuela, right? Thank you, Lone Clapper. That's the energy. That's the energy I like to see in this fucking place. There's one guy sheepishly like, Cuba, nobody, all right. No, that's what they're spending their time on, is how horrible Cuba is, how horrible Venezuela is, right? They're just, I understand, it's like, here's the thing, is even if you hate socialism or you hate, it's just another system in another country. What's that fucking got to do with you? Why can't they have their own system, whatever it is? I don't care if it's something socialist, anarchist, communist. I don't care if they worship woodland creatures and give every raccoon their own golf cart to drive around in. I don't give a shit. What's it have to do with you? That's their life. Let them fucking live their lives. Yeah. That's, even if you hate socialism with just a passion, just so horribly you hate it, what's it have to do with you? It'd be like if you just despise genital piercings so much that just knowing they're out there somewhere has destroyed your marriage. What the fuck? And they're like, oh, well, they like the Cuban people. I feel that when you get into an argument with one of these clowns, they go, oh, the Cuban people, I'm upset for the, oh, really? Are you? Are you upset for the Cuban people? We Americans are literally walking around every day in clothing made by fucking children in a sweatshop in Vietnam. We're vacationing in countries where they imprison people for being gay. The metals in our bones are mined by like 6-year-olds lowered into the center of the earth on a rope made out of bark. Just so you can get 10% more battery on your fucking phone. But you reserve your real concern under free healthcare. With their guaranteed housing.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, this is for anybody not liking my other shit. The other day I saw a sign that said Fur Coats Unlimited. The name speaks for itself. Shouldn't that say Fur Coats Unlimited? That's it, the rest of the show. They came out with a COVID pill, you see that? They're coming out with a COVID treatment pill for COVID. Very, very exciting. That's great. We get back to normal. We can finally go back and get their tongues pierced at a truck stop in West Virginia. Right? Go back to normal. They have a pill, a pill for treatment of COVID, and it's made by Merck, which that is, they named their company after the sound you make when you swallow a fly while you're telling the story. Yeah, so me and my friend were like, that's it, that's the name of the company right there. That's my favorite big pharma company, it is. I also get my clothing made by, I love them, they're one of my favorites. But so, yeah, Merck is putting out this bill, apparently. It was made with our tax dollars, government funding, federal funding, partially made in partnership, and now they're jacking up the price from the $17 it costs to make it to $712 for a pill. 40 times! What, 40 fucking times what it costs to make? I haven't seen an upcharge like that since I returned a rental car with a dead delivery guy in the trunk. Hey, it says in the contract you can return the car dirty, alright? It fucking says it! And are they calling that not dirty? It's insanity, but that's what happens when you have a system that pushes sociopaths to the top.
Yeah.
That's how that works, alright? It is nice because you can predict their actions. You just think of the worst shit you could ever imagine anyone doing, and then you make it a wee bit worse. And that's what they will do every time. Profit over all else. That's how it works. I have a cat that comes and goes as she pleases. So it occurred to me the other day, I don't really have a cat. I know a cat. Shit's in a box in my apartment. Still over here. But you know, mainstream media is they're just massive stories that they ignore almost completely. There's been a little bit of coverage of this, but very little. They'll do one little article about the fact that a French study came out, and in France, the captain assaulted 300,000 children. There was a grand jury report in Pennsylvania, and just in Pennsylvania, they found that 1,000 children had been molested by the Catholic Church. And those are just the ones that come forward. How fucking many thousands of children have to be assaulted in an organization? I argue it's one. 99, okay, but you're on thin ice. No, but seriously, why is this not a story just like, they should have fucking public service announcements. Like, they should be telling people on TV, like, hey, parents, like, statistically speaking, the most dangerous place in your city is the Catholic Church. They should be like, sit your kids down and tell them, hey, if your path to school takes you near a church, go all the way around, go through that old And then if you're still running late, get a ride with the guy with the windowless van. Well, whatever you do, don't go into church. They used to, you remember the refrigerators in the 70s and 80s? They used to have a clicking handle and it would actually click shut. And they found out that some people put their old refrigerators out on the street or something, and a kid would climb in there, hide and go seek or some shit, and it would lock behind him, and the kid died, like a few kids died. So they started putting stickers on every fridge. They started doing announcements on TV. If you're throwing out your fridge, break the handle off the fridge, because we can't have this happen to more children. So how long before they go, hey, if there's a church in your area, break the handle off the front door so that we can stop this. All right, I'm going to get out of here in a minute and bring another comic up, but I just want to say, obviously, we need this fight for Assange. It's so important, and now is such a critical time. But what he said for journalism, for truth, is just, it's monumental, and it spoke to how we need to enlarge, grow the Overton window, the allowable discussion points in our society. All right, we need to. The mainstream media defines the allowable debate, and it's this big. It's a tiny little window. All right, they'll have panels where people are arguing very angrily, but it's only this much thought that is allowed. Right? It'll be like we need to bomb Syria this week. And then they'll be like, and now for the opposing view, and he'll go, no! We need to bomb them next week! That's the allowable thought. So grow that discussion, grow that debate. Don't debate about whether our bombs dropping overseas are killing too many innocent civilians. Debate about whether we should be at war at all. Have that discussion. Don't debate about whether corporations are spending too much money on political candidates. Debate about whether there should be corporations at all. All right, have that discussion. Don't debate about whether someone should go to prison for fucking their entire life for the third drug charge. Have a debate about whether there should be drug charges at all. Have that discussion. Don't debate about whether the education system is creating too many dumb kids. Debate about whether there should be dumb kids at all, or whether we should send them off into the woods to create a moron Lord of the Flies. Well, I'm going to move it along here, but I do have a book where for sale. I'll give all the proceeds to the Stella Morris Defense Fund for Assange. If you find me after the show, I have those. And there's a chapter on everything WikiLeaks revealed and how important it is. And so I hope you'll at least check that out. Like I said, I'll donate all the proceeds. But anyway, coming up, let's look into a comic, correct, Randy?
Yes,
Okay.
then I'll bring up the next speaker after you bring up this comic, all right?
Okay, sounds good. All right, is anybody standing? All right, please welcome, you might know him as the newest cast member of Redacted tonight, incredible comic, Jaffer Khan.
Keep it going for Lee Cam. Things are going better for me. I just moved into my own place for the first time. Usually that gets applause from working class audiences. I get it, we're out of benefits. Sacklers aren't going to clap for that. Sorry, I didn't call out the Sacklers. Julian Assange. No, I moved into my own place for the very first time. I will admit that is a very, that's a millennial accomplishment, right? Older generations, they don't really understand. They didn't have to deal with adults. They have to deal with adult roommates, right? Back in the day, if there was a grown man living with another grown man, there was like a specific assumption there, right? Forbidden love. That's how good the economy was in the 90s, right? It was a good economy back then, is what I'm saying. Right? Yeah, things are different now. It's okay. okay. By far, not the weirdest thing that's happened tonight. So, I think you're fine. Yeah, but you know, I moved in. The show. We're going through an affordable housing crisis right now. We are approaching late-stage capitalism. Hey, Randy, how's it going, man?
Did you see a hit?
Late-stage. Remember. I'm on the phone with Dad, in Texas. During that time, my dad very casually he's getting a gun for the first time in his life. I said, I'm 8 years old. Are you now for the first time getting a gun? My dad said very confidently. He goes, well, son, once Trump wins the re-election and BLM protesters storm my neighborhood in these suburbs of Texas, or they'll carpool, I guess, according to my dad, he's like, I want to be able to protect me and your mom. I was like, all right, Dad, where do I begin? Let's start here. Look, Dad, I get that you choose to be Republican. You can choose. I don't like you, by the way, Dad. News. You are eavesdropping on Fox News. Tucker Carlson's not talking to you, Dad. He doesn't like you. My dad's going to show Tony's Beyond counter protest, like with his homies. He's going to get. Yeah. These illegal immigrants from coming in and taking our. We don't want them. If you catch my drift. What else? Oh yeah, we should really clean up our inner city streets. Get these violent thugs out of our safe neighborhoods. If you know what I mean. What else? What else? Oh yeah, we should probably ban Muslims. Wink, wink. It's like, bro, can you at least pretend? Can we get some subtlety, please? Just a basic decency. Didn't we veil? Yeah, can we get a veil, please? Sometimes. You know we fuck with veils, right? The one thing you know about us? And we have it in this. Alright, well, that's it for me. Thank you.
Now the executive editor. Would you please welcome Margaret Kimberly, who is, after she's finished, she's going to bring up Katie.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I want to thank Randy and everyone from New York City Free Assange for inviting me to participate tonight. I'm also proud to be a contributor to the book In Defense of Julian Assange. I hope you all have it. And if you don't, that's something you need to change. Holidays are coming up. Makes a great gift. It's very funny. About this time last year, I was on one of many webinars that I do, and we were talking about if Joe Biden wins, what's going to change. And I was one of 3 panelists. And I was the only one who said nothing. And everybody else argued, feet to fire, and, Trump is the outlier, he's the fascist, he's the worst ever. And I said, no, if Biden wins, nothing changes. So why are we here tonight? Because Joe Biden is continuing a Trump administration prosecution. We're all obviously Assange supporters, but everybody isn't, and it's kind of sad when I talk about Assange to many people, my friends, family, people I respect, and they'll always say, well, isn't he a rapist? No. Didn't he help Trump win? No. And, Hillary Clinton says Russian WikiLeaks, and people, I don't know why, still listen to her. But it actually is not surprising. Because, think about it. I'm telling people, we're all telling people, we know what's going on, but the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and NPR and MSNBC, all of them have been lying to you. So me and a relative small number of people, we're the ones who know what's going on, and everything else you've been told is untrue, which is provable. but it's hard for other people to understand. And that's why it's so important for us to be here tonight and to continue in this effort. So, of course, Netflix is going to rebroadcast this smear piece, We Steal Secrets, or whatever they call it. And it's not surprising. Of course you would do it now. Why wouldn't you do it now? Because this hearing is coming up. You don't want Assange to be free. And you need him to continue to be demonized. So this is the perfect moment for it. And by the way, let's talk about Netflix. Condoleezza Rice on the board. The Obamas have deals with Netflix. So the corporate media work in lockstep with the state. And that is what makes our work so challenging, but that's what also makes our work so important. So there's just a few things you can say to people. No, Julian Assange was never, people say he was charged with rape. He was arrested. No, he was not charged. Sweden didn't want to charge him, but they continued the case because the US and the UK pressured him. No, he didn't give anything to Russia. No, nothing was hacked from the DNC. And he's now being prosecuted under the Espionage Act, which goes back to the days of Woodrow Wilson and the Palmer raids, and Obama bringing that back, resurrecting the Espionage Act, which had been in disuse for decades, but he used it to punish whistleblowers, to criminalize whistleblowing, to criminalize journalism. And as Lee Camp said, everyone who calls themselves a journalist should be on Assange's side. Except they've disappeared him, and when they do, actually maybe it's good they don't talk about him, because when they do, it's always a lie. And there's something else going on now, and that's about Russiagate. Because some shoes are starting to drop. There have been indictments of people who worked for Hillary Clinton. It's now, this is my wish in life. Please, God, let me see the end of Russiagate. Let me see this exposed. But they're indicting people who lied to the FBI because they worked for Hillary Clinton, and they sold this bogus story about an Alpha Bank and the Trump Organization. They made it up and then lied when FBI asked, are you working for a client? And this lawyer was working for Hillary Clinton. Christopher Steele is giving interviews. Christopher Steele, this man of mystery, we kept hearing about this dossier. Now he's giving interviews because, why? He was paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign. So all of these attacks on Julian have to continue because he is connected with this fraud. And I just want to end by saying, I'm going to quote myself if I may. What little, this is what I wrote in my chapter in the book, what little is left of American democracy depends upon the existence of a free and independent press. And Julian Assange must be defended for that reason. He must be defended precisely because the ruling elites want him locked up. His willingness to show us what war looks like or how trade agreements deprive millions of people of their rights make him an ally. Not just as a person, but an ally of the principles Americans claim to care about. The extradition effort must be vigorously opposed by anyone who claims to care about press freedom and democracy. He cannot get a fair trial in this country. Whistleblowers never do. He is a political prisoner, and that is what we must always say when anyone asks us about Julian Assange. My friend, there she is, Katie Halper, who I was very pleased to be on her show several times. The first person to help me promote my book, Presidential Black Americans and the President, the great Katie Halper.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Good. Okay. I'm going to assume, yeah, you're good. How's everyone doing? Hey, thanks for sitting through hour 7 of this marathon. So let's see. Joe, if you're watching, Joe Biden. I'm just gonna appeal straight to you, because I know you're into this scene and you're probably watching our live stream. But I really feel like you should empathize with Julian Assange, because he's been locked up for a long time, and you totally know what that's like from your experience in South Africa, where you're locked up visiting Nelson Mandela, right? Also, like, Assange hasn't gotten a lot of sunlight. He's been, like, underground, indoors, not a lot of time to play outside. You, of course, know that from toiling in the mines. And also, you know, Assange has, like, stood up to power. He's looked the state power, corporate power in the face. He's refused to back down. He's spoken truth to power. He's leaked against power. And you, Joe, of course, stared Corn Pop in the face. Refused to back down. Corn Pop, of course, the really bad dude, who you know from your days as a, quote, civil rights activist, by which you meant apparently working at a pool where black people swim, working as a lifeguard there. Talk about white savior complex. Right? Wait, that's the joke you've grown at? Come on. All right, I won't do that. I'm not going to do the analysis of the response. But everyone's good? Yes? Yeah. So what I want to do tonight, among other things, and among obviously making the case for freeing Assange, which we all should do, is, you know, one of the things that was revealed from WikiLeaks is that country called Israel is kind of bad, right? And I, as a Jew, am really tired of AIPAC pretending to represent all of us. So I want to show you the other face of Jewry. Now, Dr. Cornell West knows very much about this prophetic tradition of Tikkun Olam and liberation theology, so this is for everyone else, in case you don't know. So just a little bit about myself. I'm the product of a mixed marriage. My mom is Bronxian. My dad is Queensian, and they were both part of the Great Church Migration from the Arab boroughs into Manhattan's Upper West Side. They were looking for a better life as close to Zabar's as possible, and they found it. But we're not religious Jews, right? So, like, we didn't celebrate any Jewish holidays except for Passover, and that's because Passover is a holiday of liberation, resistance, or as my uncle used to call it, dialectical materialism at its finest. But I actually didn't know that Passover was a Jewish holiday. I thought it was like a black holiday, like Kwanzaa, but older, because my family would like talk a little bit about Jews in Egypt, but would focus mostly on slavery and then the civil rights movement, and then of course the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the occupation. But I don't know if you know this about Lee, but Lee comes from very different stock. Like, I was born into a lefty family. Lee had to convert. He has some interesting, he'll talk about it later, I just outed him, but he has some interesting ancestors. I can't claim any credit for my politics. Parents, totally out of a Woody Allen movie, which is a problematic reference, I know, we'll get to that in a second. But it's true, my mom's a novelist, writer, she's here tonight actually, dad's a psychiatrist. Instead of telling me stories at night or like singing me lullabies, they would tell me stories about the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, which would effectively put me to sleep. But my mom would tell me how she went to see Martin Luther King's March on Washington. I just made it sound like a play, but I was kind of confused. Okay, she told me that she went to hear Martin Luther King give his I Have a Dream speech, and I, as a kid, thought she had a friend who was a king named King Martin Luther, that they had a sleepover, and then the next day he told her about this dream that he had. But no, Dr. King did not have a sleepover with my mother. Although, let's be honest, he did have lots of sleepovers with other women. Neither here nor there. Takes nothing away from him, really. But my mom did come close to having a sleepover with another civil rights leader. He doesn't have as much cred as MLK, but my mom did briefly date Marion Barry. Wow. Yeah, right? Who would become the mayor of DC until being forced to step down amidst a crack cocaine sex work scandal. But who hasn't been there? Am I right? And truly was the American dream because he got to be mayor again after that. That was not my mom. It was a setup, by the way. It was a setup, but my mom was not the B word who set him up. But it's kind of a waste of a civil rights leader to have had your mom date, because if my mom had dated someone like Martin Luther King, then whenever I was mad at my dad, I could be like, I don't have to listen to you. You're not my father. Dr. King's my father. That doesn't work with Marion Barry. Anyway, so some people don't get what it means when you're Jewish but not religious. And I actually had a boyfriend who was Puerto Rican, whose father met me, and the father, after meeting me, said to him, "Oh, she's great. So is she Puerto Rican?" He was like, "No." The father's like, "Dominican? No. Italian? No. So what is she?" And my then boyfriend was Jewish, and the dad goes, "Jewish or Woody Allen Jewish?" Which was like great, besides it being Woody Allen, but he totally got the difference between like culturally Jewish and religiously Jewish, right? Now, that's not a great reference anymore, because for obvious reasons, you guys probably know about Woody Allen's past. It makes it really hard for me to enjoy his movies. It's hard for me to separate art from artists, which is why, I don't know about you guys, but I was so devastated when I learned about Leni Riefenstahl's politics. Like, I can barely get through words of an, sorry. Thank you. I can barely get through Times of Will. Same thing with D.W. Griffith, actually. Both of them broke my heart. But luckily we have another reference for godless Jews such as myself, and that's Brother Bernard Sanders. St. Bernard. Bernie. Bernie. Bernie, yeah. So he's my reference when people don't get how I can be Jewish but not religious. I'm like, I'm a Bernie Jew. And I don't know if you remember this, but some people during the primaries were actually accusing him of hiding his Jewishness. It's like, where? How? What? That's not a choice. That's like a luxury he doesn't have. First of all, his accent's a dead giveaway. He does the like inverted R thing that a lot of New York Jews do, which is where they take off an R where it belongs and put it where it doesn't. So like the idea of the way the pharmaceuticals plunder people, price gouge, is unacceptable in the richest country in the world. And I just want to really quickly leave you with, I guess, two thoughts. One is that, you know, Israel, we have to free Assange. We also have to free Palestine. We have to support those efforts, right? And it drives me crazy when Israel presents itself as this lone democracy when it's definitionally not democracy, right? It has like it's a two-tier, that usually gets a huge laugh. Okay. No, but the thing that's really scary is, I don't know if you guys heard about this story. It's a true story. There was a woman, a Jewish Israeli woman, a nice Jewish girl, shopping in a supermarket who ran into a guy, and this always happens to the best of us, and a couple minutes later. So, but here's the thing, and this is true. She found out later he wasn't Jewish. He didn't lie that he wasn't Jewish. But when she found out, she sued him. I'm not kidding, for rape by deception. Wow. Yeah, and she won the case. Like, he was found guilty of rape by deception, which I don't need to tell you is really, really, really disturbing. It's disturbing on so many levels, but just kind of on a self-interested level. Like, I'm somewhat ethnically ambiguous. Not everyone knows I'm Jewish, so I may have, like, raped some people. And, like, some people think I'm Latina, Latinx, as you know from the story about my ex, so, like, we were talking about potential serial rapists. Okay, not gonna leave you on that note. Final thing, I will say, I'm devastated that Colin Powell died. Yeah. Yes. Before facing judgment. Prosecution, tribunal. And I was devastated about Rumsfeld because he died comfortably at home. Just devastated. And you know, Colin Powell was very worried that that whole lying about the Iraq War thing would be a blot on his record, but I think that's not fair. I don't think that takes away from my lie. Me lie. Luckily, I have other things. Doesn't take away from that, from the Panama invasion, from lying about Iraq the first time. But honestly, we need to lock up the war criminals and free the whistleblowers who expose them.
That was elegant. Bernie Sanders would have loved that piece. I think it was wonderful. I love Bernie. I know Cornel. I saw you work with Bernie. You were on the road with him. I saw it. What do you think now that he supports the Iron Dome? He supports the Iron Dome. But with conditions. With conditions like they got to give aid to the Palestinians. I urge Secretary Blinken has assured me that they will get aid, bandages, Band-Aids, and some other things like that. And Kool-Aid, and some chickpeas, or maybe garbanzo beans. Whatever you want to call them. On the show. All right. We're going to keep it going. Please, you're on your phone, cut off the Wi-Fi because we have a nice view right now and we don't want to interrupt that, so we don't want to drain. So if you have a phone, just get off the Wi-Fi, all right? Before I bring on the next performer, I asked him last week, Roger, would you do this thing? And I didn't hear. No! And then I didn't hear from him, and then like 6 days later, he sends me a text message, all right, that was it. So Roger has, he and Cornell, let me just say, these two are so plunged into activism. You don't see this. This is like maybe Paul Robeson and Harry Belafonte were plunged into their activism the same way these two gentlemen are. But I'd like to, Roger Waters, what can I tell you? Roger Waters, give a round of applause.
This one, yeah. This one, take off.
Oh, yes, it will.
That's enough.
Here,
Heads up, Colin, he moved the mic.
you got the mic?
I need some more cheap white, please.
Can I get some more of that ripple?
Thank you, Randy.
Oh, over there.
Only about 8 feet away.
Start this, guy blows the spirit.
Because I'm gonna sing.
All right. You want to use it here, then I'll bring it over there.
I'm the stage hand.
All right, cool. Okay, just up a bit.
Down a bit. Left a bit. To the right.
Katie, that was fabulous, darling.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Everybody, and Lee, and all the rest, and blah, blah, and blah.
Colin, we got a shout out.
Okay, what?
That's good. Stand still, just be a little bit.
Are you a heckler?
I am your heckler, I'm not heckling. You don't have, just.
Because normally I don't.
Just a couple of inches back and got some sound.
Yeah. To you too, sir. What's he saying to me? Has anybody got any idea?
Ask him to stand back from the mic 2 inches if you can.
Why?
2 inches.
Listen, I'm a trained rock and roll star. While you were still in short trousers. Right. What, you mean back here?
Yeah.
Why?
Shorts all the time. It's warmer, isn't it?
Right. Listen, this is fucking terrifying. All right, I'm used to sort of at least 15,000 people in a band and a PA and all that crap. And behind all of that, it's much easier to operate. My admiration for these stand-up guys who stand in clubs and do what they do is boundless, I have to tell you. But I had decided what I was going to do here before I arrived, and part of that is that I'm going to sing a song and play the piano at the same time. So, thank you, Randy. It's something that I'm bound to admit I've never ever done in my life in public before. So this is the first. But before I do that, I've got another bit of paper here, and it says Roger Waters, 3rd of January 2021. So the song that I'm going to sing, I wrote. It's rather long, so you may have to bear with me. I may have to stop for, a sip of wine or a sip of water in the middle of it. Or I might just stop anyway if I fumble stuff. And it is pertinent to this evening. It's because I pop. And I'll try not. Julian Assange. His incarceration in Paris we have remained steadfast in rejecting the divine right of kings. Today we resist the hugely rich and morally corrupt, powerfully deadly, child-killing, planet-destroying behemoth that is the United States of America and its acolytes in Whitehall. We stand outside these chambers. I must have written this before one of the court. Faced with this dilemma, to quote George Burns, say goodnight, Gracie. Now, we are all dead. But if the pen is mightier than the sword, our friend Julian Assange will be free, if not today, then tomorrow. And we will live to love and fight another day.
In my direction. Where's our stage, man?
Right here.
Oh, thank you.
Like Billy and Moby Dick here.
You're taking a break? We haven't finished the show. Goodness gracious.
I'll try not to pop, Chicken Man. Look, it's so hard to find good staff. Okay. So as I said, this is a song that I wrote during COVID, and it sort of speaks for itself. And I'm going to adjust this, and then I'm going to try and ignore everything and see if I can stumble my way through it. The low F doesn't work, so we'll forget about that. Does everybody in the bar feel pain? Yeah, sure they do. Is everybody in the bar a little man? Yeah, both me and you. We traded in the family farm for snake oil. Bought into the carpet bagger's lies. Hang on. Now we're hanging on this cross. These feelings are lost. Just watching the Liberty boat sail on by. And if I cut you, will you bleed for me? If I bind your wounds, will you cry? And if I give you my hand, will you stand by me? Stand by me here till I die. The man put out his hand to help me. Gave me credit at the company's door. And I looked into his eyes. It would come as no surprise. I can't make these payments anymore. Does everybody in the bar feel shame? Lord knows I do. Does everybody in the bar feel pretty much the same? Kind of wore out by this crazy fucking zoo. The smell of napalm with the cornflakes, the chafe of killing everything that breathes, imposing sanctions on the lady down the street. Till she takes the hint and packs her bags and leaves. Come on in here, sister, and set us back. You are most welcome in the bar. This is the bar, by the way. You're in the fucking bar, right? Is that the bar is a refuge for those of us who care about other human beings and who live and the lady who I'm singing about, i.e. the one we imposed the sanctions on until she takes the hint and leaves, finally appears in the bar. Anyway, sorry. Come on in here, sister, and sit a spell. You are most welcome in the bar. We may seem few, but we are many. Have you been traveling far? The girl who brought you in here was Lakota from Standing Rock, where they made their stand. So from Fort Gates, North Dakota, here's a message for the man. Would you kindly get the fuck off our Hey, boy, man, I have a question. One of many victims. How long one has? How many? How many children took it? Not sure what word it is. How many mothers' sleeves? Saying, look, Mom, the man ain't got no fucking clothes. You can help them build a bomb. Raytheon. Sell it on in Kalamazoo. Some crazy motherfucker's bound to drop it on a busload of kids going to school. You can hold up your hands in denial. Do I sound a tad holier than thou? Well, sir, maybe I am. I admit it came easy to me to resist this fucking system. Uneducated as I am. I eschewed the Bible for King. Thought I had a different hat. Lost the line. Just following orders don't come easy to me. I guess it just ain't where I'm at. So when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, sorry, I'm there, and I read about all this Yemeni shit. Fucking bad, craving, far down. Gonna call up in Australia. Ordering some bush tucker snacks. Dance here with you to the didgeridoo. And listen. Listen while you sing me all the maps. Is that nice tonight?
Don't go anywhere, folks. Roger Waters!
We are still live, yeah. The clock's going. The clock's going, technically.
All right, we have another comedian, then we have, you want to go on, we have one more.
I want to hear it.
The comedian.
Cornell is funny.
Well, I got it. Ted. Ted, you get to follow Cornell West. Would you please welcome my brother?
Got to promise me you're going to stay for Brother Ted. You're going to stay for Brother Ted? I'm not going to take too much time, but I think we need to take in the artistry of our dear brother Roger Waters. That was so... It was the blues at the deepest level. The blues ain't nothing but a musical narrative of a catastrophe lyrically expressed. It was soulful, and soul ain't nothing but the sharing of a soothing sweetness against the backdrop of a grim catastrophe. And when we look at our brother, just take a look at our brother right here, Brother Julian. Look at his eyes. Look at the determination. Look at that fire inside of his soul. That's what we heard in this music. Thank you, Brother Roger. Artistic giant in our midst. Spiritual titan who's still on fire. Pink Floyd will go down as one of the greatest visionary and courageous artistic enactments of truth and goodness and beauty of the 20th century. Is that true, y'all? Yeah. Is that true, y'all? That's what we're talking about. Now I want to begin by acknowledging Brother Randy. I love this brother. We've been to jail so many times, it becomes a joke in and of itself. Like Willie Sutton. And we go in there and we sing what? We sing Motown. Sometimes in tune, sometimes out of tune. It's all right. It's coming from our soul with Brother Carl Dixon, a host of others. And then to have the Kunstler, the royalty in the history of America. We'll never forget Brother William and Margaret and Emily and the others. Brother Lee was so wonderful. Oh, Sister Katie was so magnificent. Brother Shafar was wonderful. And of course, Sister Margaret Kimberly from Black Agenda Report. You know, dear Brother Glenn Ford, let us never forget Brother Glenn Ford, one of the towering figures, if not the most important revolutionary journalist and intellectual of his generation. And what they were able to do is create a cacophony of voices. See, I come from a people, a black people, that lifts every voice is our anthem. You can't be a blues man without lifting your voice. You can't be a jazz woman without lifting your voice. You can't be an echo, just an extension of the echo chamber. You gotta find your voice. And what this gathering is all about, what makes this gathering so priceless and so precious, is not just we never heard Brother Roger play the piano in public in the history of the world. That's already historical right there. But the fact that he was able to do it with a sense of humility such that his voice bounced off against the voices of all of us, because we here to keep the focus on truth, and the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. On goodness, which means we keep track of evil, of imperial evils, be it AFRICOM in Africa, be it drones dropped on innocent brothers and sisters in Yemen, in Somalia, in Pakistan, and Afghanistan, be it predatory capitalism and the crimes on Wall Street of market manipulation and insider trading and fraudulent activities and predatory lending, be it white supremacy and all of this viciousness on every level, of male supremacy, homophobia, transphobia. These are not just abstractions. These are lived experiences of people who are what? Resisting. Yes. Fighting radically against the grain. And then to situate it in the bars was so deep. because I'm sure Brother Roger knows that the greatest play ever written, which is The Indictment of American Empire, was written by an Irish genius named Eugene O'Neill. Right around the corner, Harry Hope Saloon, the Iceman cometh. The Iceman cometh. Hickey, a salesman, not in the genius of Arthur Miller, the death of a salesman that sells products. But Hickey was a seller of dreams. And those dreams were lies. Those lies revealed crimes. That's what WikiLeaks is about. That's what the Julian is about. The lies that reveal crimes. And no regime, no status quo, no empire, no predatory capitalist regime wants to hear the lies about itself exposed in every corner of the globe. That's why he's in prison. That's why he's a political prisoner, Sister Margaret. Because he's a truth teller. Yes. He's a truth teller. See, I come from a people of black people who've been chronically hated for 400 years, but keep dishing out love warriors every generation, be it the love supreme of John Coltrane, or be it love in the need of love of Stevie Wonder, or be it what's going on with Marvin Gaye or Martin Luther King. Those are love warriors at the deepest level because what? They simply wanted to bear witness to the truth and allow the suffering to speak. And they were criminalized, assassinated, incarcerated, marginalized, debased, misconstrued, and misunderstood. And yet in the end, we know they stood tall. That's why we here. From the south side of Chicago, named Lorraine Hansberry and a Raisin in the Sun, and don't get it twisted. It was not some tale about upward social mobility, black folk trying to gain access to some vanilla suburb. No, it started with the death of old man Claude. It started with the death of their boy and what they gonna do with the money given that he's died. And Walter says, I can only gain access to strength when I go to the Green Hat and have that brother blowing that saxophone in such a way that I don't lose sight of what it is to be part of a great people who resisted slavery and Jim Crow and Jane Crow and Jim Crow Jr. and Jane Crow Jr. today and still holding on in a critique not just of discrimination, that's deodorized textbook analysis of America. We keep it funky like Bootsy Collins. We keep it funky like James Brown and Aretha Franklin. And the funk says that discrimination is parasitic on a predatory capitalist project of a settler colonial experiment that has militarism all around the world and attempts to reshape the whole globe in its interest and in its image and it leads towards the blowing up of the planet. That's what we're talking about. And that's why when you hear the music of Brother Roger and the connection at the deep human level of artistic expression, spiritual fortitude, moral courage, and a sense of humor, which is a sense of humanity, which allows us to enact a solidarity. That's what's happening tonight. We thank you, Brother Randy, for all of your vision and your work. Let us remain in solidarity with our dear brother, Julian Assange.
Cornell West! Well, as Captain Renault said about Rick Blaine Bogart, if I were a woman, I'd marry him. All right. Forget about it. Nobody saw that movie. Nobody saw Casablanca. Everybody in the world. I'm an old man. All right, so listen, get back up here, Raphael, because you're going to play a little closer. We have another act. He's got the most difficult job in the world. He's got to follow not just Roger Waters, but Cornell West. Can you imagine what he is going through? I got to follow those two guys. He is a trooper for doing that. He's not upset. He wants to be part of this cause tonight. The cause is much bigger, he said to me, than when I go on. You play a little Coltrane. I told Cornell that you had something.
Yeah, but we couldn't coordinate the thing with the thing.
Well, things happen here. All right. There you go, Cornell.
That was beautiful. All right. All right. And a little Mills Melson. Mills Melson. Forget about it. We'll
I already forgot about it. I think that's waiting.
all right. We are going to bring up, you'll close with Mills Melson. We sing us a tune. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We don't go anywhere, please. We'd like, and like I said, this guy is a trooper, man, and he is coming on right now. He believes in the cause. He was been on Letterman before. He's Radio City Music Hall. He's been around. He's really a very funny guy. Would you please welcome Ted Alexander? Thank you, Ted.
Thank you so much, everybody. Another hand for Randy and for my opening acts, Cornell West and Roger Waters, and all of the great people that have been up here today. Actually, it was not true what Randy said, that I said it was cool and I was gracious. I was like, fuck that, this is bullshit. I'm off the show. Talk me down. So I'm here. The show must go on. No, of course, Cornell West. Another hand for Cornell West, of course. My goodness. Roger Waters, yes. We are amongst giants. Randy. Yes, we are amongst giants. Yes. I didn't pause just so it would go down a little bit. It just naturally, it's just the cadence. But truly, giants, all. So I am humbled to be part of such a gathering for Julian Assange, a man who sits in a maximum security prison in the UK right now for telling the truth. Telling the truth about American empire, telling the truth about the brutality of war, telling the truth about all the things that make the United States go round. And he put a halt to that, and now he is there. So I was thinking perhaps, before I go on to the funny portion of my show, and it is coming, it usually does, perhaps we could take a moment, because we are all beings, we are all interconnected, we are all made of love and hope. Perhaps we can take a moment in our minds and in our hearts to send a bit of love, a bit of hope to Julian Assange, that he might feel it, the people here in this room, the people watching on the live stream. Take a moment, and in whatever way you deem worthy, you deem fit, send that little piece of your soul, that love, that hope. Send that to Julian in the room in which he sits. Because that is why we are here. So, I am a comedian. I was told that backstage. I was reminded. I've been in New York twice since the pandemic, twice. My wife and I moved up to Connecticut with our two babies. We have a 20-month-old son and a 6-month-old daughter. So I have been nowhere. Jim Gaffigan called me and said, "Will you open for me at Radio City?" I said yes. That was about a month ago. Then Lee Camp said, will you come and do a show for Julian Assange? I said yes. Those were literally the only 2 gigs that could get me from Killingworth, Connecticut, back to New York City, because I am in the midst of it with 2 babies. We are in the woods of Connecticut. There were 3 foxes in my backyard. I'm from Queens. I did not know what to do. I felt ill-equipped. I was like, do I alert the authorities? Do I kill these 3 foxes? Do I write a children's book? I did all 3. In my new book, 3 Dead Women in Shoes. An old dad, despite what you see before you. 52 years old. The expectations are minimal. I picture myself at parent-teacher night eventually. I'll be the oldest person in the building. Older than the principal even. I'll be like, look, listen up. You realize none of this matters, right? Are they nice? Do they eat? Then we're good. I'll see you next semester. Here's a better stretch. An old dad. Because the young dads, you feel it, right? You feel the intensity. They're invested in ways that they probably shouldn't be. Because it's about them. Not me. Right? I'll be at Little League baseball games. The old dads will be like pointing and waving, like repositioning. Relax. It's just baseball. It's a dying sport. I don't even care if my kid's any good. Could be out in right field picking dandelions. Like, Daddy, I made a wish. I'm like, I hope it comes true. The glove goes on the other hand. 52. Find myself waking up injured more and more. I don't get it. Go to sleep perfectly fine. Wake up with like a strained hamstring. I don't remember running in the night. I was supposed to stretch before I sleep now. I thought this was the most low impact thing I could be doing. Something always hurts. I always feel like I'm masking at least 2 injuries. One clears up, another one appears. It's like, oh, my neck's feeling better, but what's going on my toe? I guess that's gonna linger. And it takes less and less to hurt me. Did a gig in Maui, first time there, so beautiful. Just standing on the shore looking out, the bluest ocean I'd ever seen. An equally blue sky above. Suddenly a wave washes ashore, hits my knee, it buckles. It's still not the same. I don't think it'll ever be the same. That's where I'm at. Water is a threat. I went to the doctor, he's like, "Oh, you're playing basketball?" I was like, "No, I was standing still." I was relaxing. You should be more careful. I'm like, "I'll try. I don't see how that's possible." I was completely still, physically and spiritually. Recently went up a font size on my phone. That was a big day. Man, what a game changer. I had no idea. The answers lie in the settings. I went as high up as they offered. It's like top line on the eye chart. I'm reading articles a letter at a time now. I'm like, what's a T? What's a backwards E? I've been it comes into your life at just the right moment. But man, I am not going back. Let the young guys stand, right? We got hopes and dreams. A stream you can depend on. Not me. We got a spotty flow. Like an old rapper. What? Make some noise. So like you were deep in thought on that one. Stuck in court, man. I'm gonna wrap up, man. What a beautiful night it has been. I'm gonna leave you with a quick story, but one more hand for Randy, who put this together and has done so much great work for so many years. I'll leave you with a story that occurred to me that happened, gosh, I guess it was 2011, right? Occupy Wall Street?
Yeah.
Where I met one of the other folks on the bill, Brother Cornell West. As well, you know, when you, as comedians, a lot of times, like, you know, we get to do shows where, like, worlds cross, where it's like, you know, you get to work with the likes of Cornell West, Roger Waters. It's exciting, you know, so it's like you get to step foot into the larger arena, the rock and roll world, for lack of a better term. But that's not what tonight is. They got to step into what the comedy world is like. This is what it's like for us, guys. So remember that when you go back.
That's nice, brother. That's nice.
And we're not even there yet. So I was standing on Broadway. This was like late September in 2011. So the movement was burgeoning. It was growing day by day. And I first went there September 19th, just out of curiosity. I think I'd read something in the Times or somewhere about this group of upstarts just positioning themselves on a piece of land in Lower Manhattan. And I was taken by that. I was like, my goodness, how audacious to just not leave, to go to the belly of the beast. That I painted on the back of a pizza box that said, if only the war on poverty were a real war, then we would actually be putting money into it. And as I'm standing there, up walks, as if out of a dream, Cornel West. And just as gracious as you would expect, just as warm as you would expect. And I said, would you like to hold my sign? And he said, you've tried the best, now try the rest? I said no, flip it over. And he held up the sign. He said, sure, I would be proud, I would love to. So he stood there with us and he held that sign. And of course the media descended upon Cornel West because of who he is and all that he represents, all the work that he does and has done, especially for the poor. And that picture of the two of us, side by side, went viral. It was in like newspapers across the world, internationally. It was all over Facebook. And it was so exciting. And then I looked at the comments on Facebook and it said, as usual, Dr. West says it best. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That was my sign. He was just holding it. But I was happy to pass that along for a much better messenger than I. And that's truly what this is all about, is it's just a group effort. It's everyone putting their work, their soul, their energy towards amplifying this message to free Julian Assange, somebody who has put so much on the line and has done such incredible work. And what we are doing here tonight is so important and so powerful. And may we keep doing the next little thing that we can do to amplify that message. Thank you so much. Back to Randy. You did it, man. You've been out there at pitch and after saying the program, what's the perfect game? All right, now I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. Graphic lead up there. Yes, we're going to bring everybody up in 1 second. But I want to thank New York City Free Assange, Bernadette, and Chuck. We've been working on this for 8 weeks now. We did one in D.C., went down in D.C., Lee Camp, who got me all of these acts, except for Cornell and Roger. They are, you can ascribe that to the hard work and the personality of Lee Camp. He brought all of these great acts, not only here, but in D.C. Thank you, Lee, for doing that. We thank Lee for the Computer Foundation, who's been helpful in this. He's been really good. He got the live stream going to bail us out tonight. Nathan Fuller, Steve Brown is going to make a $100,000 donation to the. Okay, we, Raphael, you were great, really. Thank you very much. I want to thank the owner, Workin, and his wife, Workin Otley. Gave us a space. Simeon, the live streamer, thank you very much. Kelly Lane, who works with me on Assange Countdown to Freedom, Assange Countdown to Freedom, which is on Progressive Radio Network on Mondays and on Wednesdays on WBAI and on the website. And I had 2 wonderful dialogues with both, like 4 with Roger and 3 with Cornell West.
What about the chicken bloke?
Who's the fucking chicken?
Simeon.
Simeon, yes. I said Simeon.
Yeah, no, I'm already out.
He's up there. I mentioned his name. There he is. That's like a Halloween pose, man. You see those hanging in Brooklyn.
You're flying low too.
Yes.
I gotta tell you, there have been historic nights in this room from when Lord Buckley's cabaret card was taken over in that corner leading to his death to live at the Jazz Gallery with John Coltrane. But tonight goes down in the history of this room and this building as one of the great historic nights. On the par with the nights we had for Lynn Stewart.
Yes, Lynn Stewart, yes, a political prisoner. Ralph Boyd is here tonight. Thank you, Ralph. In fact, the last time I was here was a benefit for the Lynn Stewart Defense Fund. I think I did like 10 for the Lynn Stewart Defense Fund. I want everyone that was on the show, if they could just get up here once again to kind of cap this. If you would lead the way, Dr. West and Professor Waters. And I want to thank my good friend over here who rescued us from some maniac outside who hates every act tonight. Thinks we're all poisonings. Okay. Jack, yes, everybody please come on up. That was on the stage, Margaret. And Margaret. I want to get everybody up here. We're going to sing the closing of the Mickey House show. You couldn't even wait, could you? Now it's time. I'm kidding. All right, so I want to thank, from left to right, Ted Alexandro, Jaffer Khan, Margaret Ratner, Kunstler, Lee Camp, Margaret Kimberly, Roger Waters, Katie Halper, and my cellmate, Dr. Cornell West. Please support the Defense Fund. You can go to
Stella Morris with one R. Is it M-O-R-I-S, 1 on Twitter. And please support, because they're going against the Department of Justice and the Crown Prosecutor Services, and they got billions of dollars to spend. They do. Julian needs your support, so please give generously. If you have it out there, here I know you don't have it, but brother, can you spare a dime? All right, so I think, Raphael, let's go out with whatever you want to play. Thank you all very much, and thank you once again. Thank you, Lorcan. Lorcan, get up here for a group picture. Thank you, Lorcan. And Jeannie here. And you too. You two come up here. You too. Come on, turn it down. And Nathan, get up here. Get up here, Nathan. Where's Nathan? Nathan? All right, let's get them all in here. Thank you. This is the whole team this week for the last couple of months. Thank you very much, everybody. Did a good job of this. All right. All right, I think that's about it. Thank you very much. Okay.